Today is Wednesday, May the 4th, 2011. I'm Matthew T.G.
I am Heath Mullican.
And I am Tony Casey. Hey, welcome to the Technology Show, a weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. The world's only user-antagonistic podcast. This is episode 106. Woo-hoo. And let me start today by giving a big shout-out to all of our fans who listen to us at the Belvedere Assembly Plant in Belvedere, Illinois. This is a Chrysler assembly plant. We have listeners there, Heath.
Wow.
Yeah, man. So big shout out to them.
That's awesome.
And I was actually in contact this morning with one of the workers and found out, we're trying to think about this first round of advertisement.
Yes.
It sounds like they might be on the cutting edge of our first
That's
round
right.
of advertisement. So.
We think Chrysler needs to advertise on our show.
What would Lee Iacocca say about that?
He'd be so proud.
Yeah.
All right. Heath, you want to talk about a giveaway here?
Today, at the end of the show, we're going to be giving away a copy of the Green Bay Packers Super Bowl video from this year. And so after our interview with our guest today, we're going to tell you all the rules for that, how you can win. At the end of the show, we're going to be giving that away, and it will be shipped to you, ordered and shipped today to you. And so I'm excited about that, so make sure you listen to the whole interview.
Hey, and we are happy to report that all prizes have been sent and received.
Yes.
This is a great thing. I mean, we actually have visual confirmation from many folks over Twitter, YouTube, that packages have come, have been opened, have been received, are exactly as we're described.
Yes.
That we are faithful to complete
Our
that good work which we began.
Our integrity has been restored.
Yes, it has.
Yes. All right. Hey, we do have a visitor today on the show, a guest, and we want to welcome him. He's Zac Woodfin. Zac attended Prattville High School in Prattville, Alabama. He was named to the Birmingham News Best of the Rest Super Seniors class of 2001. That year, he had 75 tackles, 5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. His team was 10-1, and he was tabbed Defensive Player of the Year by the Prattville Progress. He earned all-county honors by the Prattville Progress as sophomore, junior, and senior. He was also an all-Metro team selection as a junior and senior by the Montgomery Advertiser. After high school, Zac played linebacker at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and is the school's all-time leading tackler with 368 tackles, shattering Alan Willis's previously held record of 289. He holds UAB's single-season record for most tackles with 149. The previous record was 120 tackles, which Zac also set the year before as a sophomore. He was first-team All-Conference in Conference USA his junior and senior year, made ESPN's Hot 100 list in 2004. He was on the watch list for the Butkus Award and the Lombardi Award. His senior year, he also helped to lead the Blazers to their first-ever bowl game appearance in the 2004 Hawaii Bowl. Boy, that had to be drudgery. He entered the NFL as a non-drafted free agent with the Packers in April 2005. He spent time on Green Bay's practice squad that season, as well as the practice squads of the New Orleans Saints and the Baltimore Ravens. Zac was signed to the Ravens' active roster toward the end of that season and appeared in 1 game. He also played in NFL Europe in 2007, starting for a Frankfurt Galaxy team that advanced to the World Bowl. Currently, Zac serves as the assistant strength coach for the Green Bay Packers. Zac, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tony. Glad to be on.
Hey, man, that's a long list of accomplishments. In the pre-show, we were talking, if you're not from the Southeast, you really can't appreciate Prattville high school football. In the Southeast, high school football is huge. You have stadiums that'll hold 10, 20, 30,000 fans just for high school games. So that had to be quite an experience for you just growing up, being part of that program.
It was, you're exactly right. I know in South Carolina, especially here in Alabama, football is king. High school football is treated like the NFL in some places, but it was quite an experience to be a part of something like that where the whole community was involved and you're supported by everybody in the community.
Yeah, well, you had a great career.
Hey, Zac, none of us have ever been to Hawaii. What was that like going to the Hawaii Bowl? Like, what were some of the goodies that you got as part of that trip?
Oh, well, that was one of the best experiences of my life, as far as football goes, and also just to experience, such beauty. But, the best thing about it was the way our schedule was set up. We practiced at like 6 a.m. in the morning, and we were done by 8:30. And so we had all day to just see the islands. We rented mopeds and rode through the mountains and surfed and had, cookouts on the beach. It was just full of memories.
Yeah. Hey, Zac, you had so many accomplishments as a college football player. You're a few years removed from that experience now. As you look back, what are some of the takeaways? I mean, how did it impact your life? How does it continue to impact your life?
I think without a doubt, the biggest takeaway was, despite whatever I got as an individual, it wasn't about that, but it was about that Hawaii Bowl that we were just talking about. That was something we accomplished as a team. And everybody to do that was the UAB's first ever bowl game and only bowl game in its history.
Wow.
And that was a goal that me and a lot of guys had when we came there, and something we had to kind of put ourselves aside and join together as a group and as a team in order to accomplish that. And now as I look back and move on, I try, as a professional, as a man, to live my life like that, put my desires aside and make it more about the other person. And when I can successfully do that, good things tend to happen. So that's kind of the takeaway that I look back, and I'm very proud to have accomplished that as a team. Because now, it kind of shows me, hey, when you put aside your selfish, ways and what you want, and you do what's better for the team or the next guy, everybody wins.
In the regular season, I mean, just through all your time there at Alabama Birmingham, is there a game or a couple of games that really stand out to you? Maybe a victory or two that really means a lot to you?
Yeah, I think several. We played Mississippi State my senior year, and we beat those guys in Starkville. It was an SEC school. That was, I think, the first SEC school we beat when I was there. We played Georgia down to the wire.
Wow.
They beat us by 3 and late in the fourth quarter. But that was a big win, because in the Southeast, the SEC is the power conference really in the country.
Yeah.
And anytime we could go into somebody's house in that conference and get a win, it was big. But also a Southern Miss game that we played on ESPN, they were our big rival. We'd never beaten them. And unfortunately, we lost in the last seconds there too. But I can just remember being so just excited because that was the first time we played Legion Field in Birmingham, which is an enormous field full of tradition. But we usually averaged about 20,000, and we both, Southern Miss and UAB, were really good going into that game. And like 50, 60,000 people showed up. ESPN was there, and it was just, I was lucky enough to have a good game, and it was an exciting game.
Well, no doubt games like that, I mean, television means so much, but games like that probably, it helps to get players recognized, and certainly didn't hurt you, especially with some of the numbers you were pulling down in terms of tackles. You talk about a team, it was a team effort, team sport. I mean, there were other players on that team that I think also got acknowledged and made all-conference team. I mean, are there a couple players that you would mention now that really stand out on that team?
Oh, for sure. Being in the Southeast, I'm sure a lot of listeners know the name Roddy White, all-pro receiver for the Atlanta Falcons. He was our receiver that year. A guy named Daryl Hackney was a quarterback who played with the Denver Broncos for a few years. We had a linebacker named Nigel Eldridge, who was a great player. I think he got an opportunity with the Tennessee Titans in training camp. But there was a lot of guys on that team that pulled their end of the rope and helped us do what we did that season.
Yeah. Let's turn our attention a little bit to the NFL. For people who don't understand what it takes to make the NFL as a player, kind of give us an insight into that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of people have heard, about, I think it's maybe 3% of college football players make it in the NFL. When you think about all the different colleges around the country, it's very tough. But I think the thing with the NFL is you have to have so many things on your side. First of all, you have to love the game more than anything because it demands so much time, so much attention. And if you don't absolutely love it, then you'll just be wiped out because mentally, physically, emotionally, there's so much on you pressure-wise. So you got to love the game. You got to obviously be one of the most talented athletes in the world to play the game, and then you got to have a little bit of luck on your side too. You got to have somebody in the front office that likes you and it's going to go to bat for you. And so there's a lot of factors, a lot of pressure. I think a lot of people don't realize the pressure. The NFL is a day-to-day business. Those contracts are never guaranteed. And if you have a bad game, a bad couple of practices, you could be on the street. So there's a lot of pressure.
Hey, Zac, before you were signed to the Packers practice squad, were there any other options for you? I know, there's arena football and some guys go do that. There's really not like a secondary, pro league in the United States. But what were just kind of, as you're sitting there and you're kind of laying out your future, what were some of the other options you had before you signed with the Packers?
There really at that point there might have been options, but I didn't know about the options.
Right.
I was hoping and praying to get drafted and was talking to a few teams during the draft, including the Packers, and hoping to be, a 6th or 7th round pick. Mm-hmm. When that didn't happen, immediately after the draft, I'm talking minutes, the Packers called me and told me they wanted to bring me into camp as an undrafted free agent. So it happened so quick that no other opportunities were even thought of. So that all happened right after the draft.
So you knew there. I mean, I guess this kind of gives us some insight with the draft being last week that there are guys in similar situation as you who may get drafted later in the draft, but you know that there are teams interested to make that call to you as soon as the draft is over. Correct?
Correct. Yeah, most undrafted free agents get a call within 5 minutes of the draft ending.
Wow.
And it's like it's like a frenzy because all these NFL teams now are calling the best undrafted guys and the athletes can pick. And so you're getting, calls from 15 teams saying, hey, come to our camp. And you have to kind of, make a guesstimate of where you might have the best opportunity.
Now, after, I know you played NFL Europe and, tried to get on with the NFL. After that kind of passed you by, you ended up in Southern California. Tell us a little bit about, what you did there, and especially I'm interested in, I know that you guys were getting players ready for the Combine, I think, and things of that nature. Explain that to our listeners.
Correct. Yeah, I went to work for a place called Athletes Performance in Los Angeles, California. The way that I knew about this training facility was my agent sent me there before I played in the NFL. And I was kind of like a weight room warrior, really, really dialed into my nutrition, my training, everything that I had to do to get better because I didn't have as much athletic ability as a lot of athletes at that level. So I knew I had to take advantage of every other, avenue I could in order to try to stay on that level. So I was in Los Angeles training, and I was just blown away, not only by the facility and the methods that they use, but the people were quality people They really cared about me as a person, and they were just the best in the business, in my opinion. So that stuck out to me. And after my NFL time was over, I called him back and said, I would love an opportunity to work. Exercise science was my major at UAB. So, I knew that I was passionate about this field long before I ever went to the NFL. And, I had the background credentials as far as my degree. And about 6 months after that call, it worked out for me to go out, interview, and luckily enough to get offered there. But, yeah, we trained athletes from around the world there, every sport. It was like a sports mecca, probably on about 50 acres of land. 10 full soccer fields, football fields, basketball stadiums, about a 50,000 seat soccer stadium. Wow. Just an awesome place. Tennis courts. But my main role there was to lead and develop the NFL and college football training programs. And so the majority of my work was with college football players, preparing those guys for the NFL combine, and then NFL veterans that were already in the NFL, during the off season. If they lived in Southern California, they would usually come to us and let us take care of their training.
I know that this past week you, at my request, watched a video production that was done by ESPN, and it was on the story of William Perry. Now, this is something we covered on our show about 4 months ago. William Perry is from South Carolina. It was nicknamed the Fridge. He was so big. There was actually a picture of him taken beside a refrigerator his senior year at Clemson, and the refrigerator looked small beside him, so that name stuck. He had a lot of success in the NFL, but he kind of, right now, his life is just, it is a very sad story. And you and I talked last night some about, we forget that this is a business, and what intrigued me about you, and the reason you're on this show, is that part of what you guys did at Athletes Performance is you really tried to address the character side of sports and what these players are about to get into, especially if they sign a contract. And then also in this, Zac, talk to us a little bit. You went to Mosaic. Many of our listeners will understand that's where Erwin McManus is, the pastor, and there was even some outreach from Mosaic as well to athletes. So talk to us about that a little bit.
Sure. I think early on when I got to Athletes Performance, I wanted to make an impact and do more than just train athletes. Being a man of faith, and that being something that's really, really important. Number one in my life, I had to think of a way to not only train these guys, but give these guys a purpose and a hope and a future, to live lives that are meaningful. And so as I think to myself, how can I do this? I was at Mosaic early on, and I was listening to Erwin McManus speak to us, and just the way he communicated, the way his style of communication. For those who don't know a lot about Mosaic, Mosaic is a faith community in Los Angeles that is an awesome place, but there's no judgment. There's no hey, you don't fit the bill to be here. Anybody off the street, it doesn't matter. They're really welcomed, and they feel like they belong when they walk through those doors of Mosaic. And the way this man communicated, not only to those who were followers of Jesus, but those who might not know who Jesus is at all, it really stuck out to me. And I said, wow, this guy is a perfect person to speak to my athletes, because I had athletes of all different, backgrounds. Maybe they grew up knowing who Jesus was, maybe not, but I knew this guy could come in and speak in a way that would influence them and not put them at edge or uneasy, And so I just simply walked up, introduced myself, asked him if he would be interested in speaking to a group of potential NFL players that I was working with. And he said he would love to. Not only would he like to speak, he'd like to take them all out to a steak dinner at a restaurant. So his generosity in that moment, without even knowing me, blew me away. And he followed up. He took us all. We rented out one of the nicest steakhouses there in Hermosa Beach. He paid for everything out of his pocket. He spoke to the guys. He gave them all copies of his book, Barbarian Way.
Wow.
And he just went up and above and beyond. And that's what started the whole character program that we did there at Athletes Performance. That kicked it off, and we were fortunate enough to do it 4 years in a row, all 4 years that I was there. Every year we did it right before our players would go to the NFL Combine. And it just got bigger and bigger every year. Mosaic supported us financially. The speakers usually always came from Mosaic. But what we really wanted to do there is give these guys, a hope that, hey, even when this game is over, I have something else I can rely on. This game does not define me, and we tried to give them education. We tried to give them tools and a lot of it was, it was spiritual. We definitely didn't hold back from our faith, and we said, if you put your faith, in Jesus, then even when this game is over, you're going to have a life full of abundance. And we just tried to really share with them our hearts and our love for them, and hope that they would start to develop other passions, beside this game. And it's so hard because, like I said earlier, to be good in this game of football, you have to love it with your whole heart. And so when you're telling guys, hey, you know what, you gotta find things that you are passionate about besides football, because football is going to end, and we don't want you to end up like that 80% when they leave the game, or bankrupt, divorced, addicted to drugs or alcohol. That's a huge percentage, and if we can just make a small dent in that, then I think we're doing our job.
So that 80%, see, I've never heard that. So is that a percentage that you throw out to these players and try to jolt them into reality?
Of course, we try to draw out as much credible information based on research that we can, because those are the facts. That's not just a number that we made up. Those are the facts based on some research that people are doing on this. And this is becoming more and more a really important topic, because every day it seems like on ESPN you see a player in the NFL or any major league sport that's, hey, he got DUI, or he's domestic violence, or he was this place at 3 a.m. and it seems like it's never stopping. So we use all those facts to show guys, hey, this is getting out of control, and if you guys don't start making better decisions with your life, then it's gonna lead you to a path of destruction.
A couple of things, Zach. I think you're exactly right about Erwin McManus. I mean, for most football players, Christian or non-Christian, there's not a lot of Christian books that would appeal to them, but one called The Barbarian Way seems to me like that would appeal to football players. What were some of your players' reaction to that book?
Yeah, well, I think you're exactly right. A lot of people that maybe look at people that follow Jesus if they look from the outside looking in, they might think that it's a soft. You got to be soft. You have to be,
meek
gentle,
and mild.
meek. The exact opposite of an NFL football player.
Yeah.
And so Erwin's thing, and any follower of Jesus who's a man's man can tell you, hey, this is not what it's all about. You can be a warrior and follow Jesus. And really, I think they saw that, and Erwin did a good job of kind of introing the book that night, and it kind of gave them a new perspective on hey, you know what? You can follow Jesus and you can be a man. You know, you can be tough. You can go out there and, crack somebody's head on Sunday afternoons, and and you can do it in the name of Jesus.
I love it. But
it was good. I think it was good for them to see and them to know that following Jesus is not weak or anything like that.
It's a needed message. It's a needed message in the church. I mean, it's because you're absolutely right. The perception of the church is not that it is that way. So you got to commend guys like McManus. And I mean, I go again to Mark Driscoll. That's his thing. Reach men, train men, and show men that you can be men and be in the church.
Zach, one of my favorite pictures of all time was when the Colts won the Super Bowl, and they'd asked them not to take pictures, but there's a picture of the Colts praying in the locker room. The Super Bowl trophy's in the middle. It's just an amazing picture. One of the questions in our
one of the questions is that Zach dropped out.
Did we lose Zach?
We did.
Let's bring him back in here and you ask your question there, Heath. Technology at its finest. All right, we're back with you there, Zach.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
What I was going to ask you, I was just saying, the picture with the Colts praying in the locker room after they won the Super Bowl is just one of my favorite pictures. And one of the questions in the chat room is, can you just describe to us a little bit about even being, on the practice squads and the different teams you were with? What is spirituality like in the NFL, and what are some things that teams do maybe to encourage or enhance that for players?
Sure. Well, it's I think a wide range, because you have so many different personalities and you have a lot of different beliefs, within a team. But I know the teams that I was a part of, I think most all of them had a chaplain who was at the facility a lot of the times, who held Bible studies or meetings and was there as a listening ear to those who had problems. So most teams have a chaplain, even if it's not a full-time guy. They have a guy who's there, who is willing to be with guys and pray with guys. So I know that's a big part of it. A lot of guys who are leaders, spiritual leaders on their team, they hold stuff on their own. They'll get a group of guys together and they'll pray. They'll do different discussions, Bible studies and whatnot. But it's really random and varied based on the leadership you have there on the team, what their backgrounds are, stuff like that.
Zach, one of the things that's encouraging to me is to see the level of character in people who are professing faith right now. I remember as a teenager, you had different people in the NFL that were professing faith, and at times they were such a disappointment to me. But with the emergence of guys like Lovie Smith, Tony Dungy, Caldwell, who followed Tony Dungy there at Indianapolis, these are men who don't just speak; they walk the talk. And I think that as a believer, it has been very refreshing, and you really get the sense that there are men in this industry who have a heart for God and want to do the right thing.
You're exactly right. As I grow, as a follower of Jesus and as a man, consistency in what you say becomes so much more important to me. Because I've been, like we all have, I've been burnt by people that I really looked up to and respected in that community, who call them, and they are Christian, but they do things that are really out of line with who they say they are, and it just it hurts, and you find ways to forgive them. But the more that I can look up and see guys who are saying and talking this life and who are actually living it consistently, those are the guys who I have a lot of respect for, and they never are going to be perfect, and they're always going to fall, but those are the guys who I really, really look up to.
Now, Zach, we know you're not allowed to talk about the lockout and all that stuff. One question I would have is, what is the thing you are most looking forward to in your new job as assistant strength coach for the Packers?
Yeah, without a doubt, just being a part of a team and having a common goal of winning a world championship. I absolutely loved Athletes Performance. I loved Los Angeles and everything about it, but it was not that team environment that I was used to, and that's something that I started to really long for, and started praying about opportunities to get back in. And now that I am back in, I just can't wait for things to get going, to get in the grind, and everybody just buckling down and zeroing in on a goal, and just going after it.
Now, we know you've had a previous relationship with the Packers. Who would you say are some of your closer friends on the team right now?
Yeah, well, Aaron Rodgers was a good friend of mine when I was there. Since I left and his career really took off, it's been a little bit tougher for us to stay in contact. I am very close to his brother, who lived there in Green Bay with Aaron and I at the time I was there. And so I've stayed really close to his family through his brother. I'm fairly close to his mom and dad as well. So I know, once we get back in the swing of things, Aaron and I will reunite. But, to be honest, my relationship has to change with a lot of those players that I played with,
right?
Because now I'm a coach. And so I can't really be on the same level as those guys. I can be a friend to them, and I can definitely try to influence them in positive ways.
Yeah, now you got to crack their heads in the name of Jesus.
I can't really hang out with them. So it's going to change.
Now, last year, Zach, one of the most controversial things of the NFL season was when I think it was one of the strength coaches for the Jets set their team up on I think it was a punt return, and actually tripped a player from the opposing team. And I know a lot of attention was brought to that in the practice of teams moving up to the line on the sidelines. As you're coming in and you're in a similar role, have they gone over any of that stuff with you about, hey, this was not a good thing, we don't want you doing stuff like that, or have they not even talked about something like that?
They haven't even mentioned that, but kind of something that relates to that is when I was interviewing with Coach McCarthy and our head strength coach, they did say they only bring people into the Green Bay Packers organization that are people of character, and people that have qualities that they're looking for. And so, for me, it was just like, Zach, just be professional. Be who you are,
right.
Here, and don't go away from who you are, and you'll be fine. And so if I can continue to try to be who I've been, then those examples won't happen, or those situations won't happen.
Zach, the last thing that we've got to ask you, you are our first guest to join us over iPad, and we have made that known in our chat room, and so we have a few that want to know, what is the killer iPad app that everybody needs to have?
Well, I'm not much on the apps, but one that me and my wife are totally into right now, it's called a Hungry Shark.
Hungry Shark. You've heard it here.
Right
Hungry
here.
Shark for iPad. That is the must-have app for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, for Zac Woodfin.
Okay, Now, Zach, you're a man of many talents, and now we're going to reveal a talent here that people probably aren't aware of. We got a little video clip, and I want everyone to know Zach is the cameraman on this. Let's watch this.
We stumbled upon something really cute, to me anyway, and I made Zach pull over and stop because I wanted to show you how creative they are around here in Wisconsin. We have tractors and something else made out of haystacks. I just thought it was really cute. I think it might be a train, but the front one is a tractor. Anyway, I just wanted to show you because I think it's really creative. Wouldn't you agree it was worth stopping?
Zach, I'm telling you, if the football thing doesn't work out in the end, you can just get behind the camera. You and Fawn can take this show on the road.
Can I just?
That's what we're gonna do, man. We have a lot of fun with that. She loves, the camera, and she loves doing different projects with that. So I join along when I can, and it's fun. It makes Wisconsin adventurous.
Yeah, well, I would just encourage people to go to her website, and if you want the tour of Green Bay, Fawn and Zach will bring it to you.
Can I just say, I broke out in a cold sweat during that video after my car got hit by a random bale of hay last summer.
No way.
The front fender was crushed. So anytime I'd see a big bale of hay like that, whew, I need counseling.
Well, you need counseling. All right. Well, Zach, we're going to wrap this up. Thanks so much for joining
absolutely.
us. I think I don't know if I told you or not. I think I've communicated to you. I'm from Wisconsin. I have family up there, so maybe in the Lord's providence, one of these trips up there, we can work something out, and I can come up to Green Bay and see
Get in
you.
the locker room. That's all you're trying to do here,
That's
Tony.
right.
I know how you work.
I want to sit on Aaron's lap, okay? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Hey, thanks so much for joining us.
No, thank you guys for having me. I think it's an awesome show that you guys do. And yeah, Tony, whenever you're that way, you're always welcome at the Woodfin household. And, we'll definitely get you to a game if that's something you want to do.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. Blessings on you.
You too, guys. See you.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
What a guy. Can I just say, the Packers will now be my number 3 team.
number 3. Who are the two teams in front of the Packers?
The Cowboys and whoever's doing better between the Falcons and the Panthers.
Okay. Well, that'll be the Falcons.
Hey, let's go ahead and announce our giveaway question. Again, we're giving away the 2010/11 Green Bay Packers Super Bowl video. Here's what you got to do. You got to email thetechologyshow@gmail.com with the answer to this question. We need the year and the Super Bowl numbers of all the Super Bowls the Green Bay Packers have appeared in. So, the name and the year of all the Super Bowls the Packers have appeared in. Email your answers to thetechologyshow@gmail.com. First correct answer is going to win that, and we'll get all your information and get that out to you today.
All right. All right. At this time,
Download of the week.
Yay! Woo! All right, our download of the week this week. I don't have the information right in front of me because I don't have the doc up, so you're going to have to help me out with the URL. But I believe it's openbible.info, I believe is the link that we're going to send you to.
yes.
I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, maybe just last week. It is what is called a KMZ file, which is a layer that you can add to Google Earth. And it turns Google Earth into a Bible atlas based on book and chapter of the Bible. If there is a place mentioned, you can add those places and use it. I've been using it in our Sunday evening services. We've been going through the book of Genesis. We finished up Revelation. I used it there too. We were talking about the 7 churches, the 7 letters to the 7 churches, just to kind of give people an idea of where these places were. It just adds a sense of realism to know that these are actual places, actual events that occurred. And so we've been doing the same thing in Genesis as we follow Abraham's story of his journey out of Ur and eventually ending up in Egypt and then back in Haran and other places like that. You can actually go in and see where these places are. It's really cool because as you look at coming out of Ur, you can actually get into the ancient city and the dig site, the ruins. You can see them from these satellite pictures. See the dig site, see where the ziggurat stood there in the town that he came from, see where the residential areas were, and it's just a handy tool. The thing that I've discovered with this website is that more than just this layer that will link you to download, the guy who runs this just does some really cool stuff with biblical information. And so just this year for Bible Gateway, many of you probably know that website, Bible Gateway. You can go get just about every different translation, and it's a very useful site. But for Bible Gateway, he made basically a timeline of events where there were these lines that followed all of the major players in Jesus' Passion Week and where they were. So you've got a line for Judas and how they connect with the Pharisees, and it's just this great visual of how it all happens, and it really adds that sense of, wow, these are real interactions and real things that are going on. So often we, whether it be in the Bible, as we read, you hear about an Abraham and his family left and they traveled around and did this, and it all happens in a verse or two, and then you get to looking at these things and you actually see what's going on, and you realize we're talking about hundreds of miles being traveled, lots of different stuff happening. These are major things that are going on, and it really just kind of builds a new I don't want to say dimension, but a new avenue of looking at these stories and investigating how they're happening. So I would highly recommend it. You have to have Google Earth, which is a free app to go with it. Once you've got Google Earth installed, we'll point you to the link here in our show notes from openbible.info, where you can get that KMZ file with the chapter or the book and chapter. Really handy, and look around that website because there's a lot of resources there that this group has put together for us to use. It's really great.
Yeah, before we go to They Said It, I mean, just comment on this. Matthew first used this for his series out of the book of Revelation, and where it was the best was when he did his series on the 7 churches, and he would actually zoom in to the ancient ruins and explain amphitheaters and different places of pagan worship, and how this just integrated right into the Bible study and just the visuals
and even what was being written to the churches.
Yes,
even like when you get into the Pamukkale area, which I know I just slaughtered how you pronounce that, but these hot springs around, when we're talking about being lukewarm, and on right to your north of this city, there's this place that's known for its hot springs. Right to the south and east, they're known for their well water because it's where water would be brought because it was so good there. And this city isn't hot or cold; they're lukewarm, and they get the flow off of both these places, and it's really interesting when you can put it into perspective.
Yeah, and the visual, it really added so much. So that's our download of the week. How about we move on to They Said It?
Let's do it.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
Always when I see him and I hug him, I say, I love you. Even on the telephone, I love you. And Dave is not expressive, but whenever we were alone, always he told me, I love you, son. Nicky Cruz of The Cross and the Switchblade talking about his friend and mentor David Wilkerson after hearing about David's tragic death in an automobile accident. Source, Christianity Today.
Apple is committed to ensuring the highest standards of social responsibility throughout our supply base. Apple requires suppliers to commit to our comprehensive supplier code of conduct as a condition of their contracts with us. We drive compliance with the code through a rigorous monitoring program, including factory audits, corrective action plans, and verification measures. Apple, responding to allegations that Chinese workers are being treated inhumanely and like machines in an attempt to keep up with demands for Apple's iPad and iPhone. Source, Guardian.
Affirm the complexity and engage it wisely. Ensure that we work with trustworthy organizations. Root out irresponsibility. Make clear that we care for orphans because it reflects God's heart. Christianity Today contributor Jed Medefiend, responding to a negative article, The Evangelical Adoption Crusade, yet still acknowledging that evangelicals can learn lessons from the article. Source, Christianity Today.
It has taken a long time for this monster to be brought to justice. Welcome to hell, Bin Laden. Mike Huckabee commenting on the death of Osama Bin Laden. Source, Huffington Post.
Okay, we're going to have to begin with that last one.
Yes.
Yeah, before we do, I've just gotten word that we may actually be on the front page of Ustream, what is streaming live right now. So isn't that awesome? With
That is
Zac
great.
Woodfin
Cool.
thing. So if anybody's out there, if this is your first time with the Technology Show, we bid you welcome.
Yes.
Welcome.
All right, so this comment here, Tej, you found it last night. We knew we wanted to talk about this, especially within the Christian community. There has been quite a debate. How should Christians react to this?
Yes.
And Huckabee here has, I have to say that when Steve wasn't able to be on the show today, and so he sent a message as soon as he saw this, and the message was, so what is Huckabee now? The Walmart greeter in hell? Welcome to hell.
Now, this quote is from a letter that Mike Huckabee sent to his supporters. This was not, which he still said it.
He said it,
but this was sent out in a letter.
He didn't say it on live television, is what you're saying. But
oh dear, are we just diving into this?
go ahead.
How can we not?
I think me personally, I speak only for Heath Mulliken. I do not speak for anyone else. Do I think it's a good thing that Osama Bin Laden is dead? Yes, I think this man was guilty of major atrocities. I think he was continuing to plan major atrocities against innocent people, not just in the United States, but Al-Qaeda does things all around the world. However, it breaks the heart of God for anyone to die without knowing him.
Yeah.
It goes against everything who God is. The reason his son came and suffered and died and rose again was so that people would be saved. So I feel like when someone dies, being evil, and that it breaks the heart of God. So I think I can be happy that he is dead. He's no longer a threat. He's no longer hurting people, but I'm not going to be like. And I had a problem with a lot of the celebrations. I'm probably in the minority about this. I had a lot of the problems with the celebrations in Washington and New York, not for people celebrating, but really. People are like, we're number one. It's like a college football game.
Well,
and I'm just like, can't we do? If we're such a great country, let's have a good celebration and not act like
I totally agree with you. It is a very conflicting thing because God is a God of justice and he's a God of love. I really believe that, and there is occasion to celebrate justice when justice is done. God is a God of justice, and so we celebrate that. However, comments like what happened, I said last night, the New York Post, it wasn't the New York Post, but another New York newspaper, were on the front page of their paper. They say, just have a picture of Osama bin Laden with the words "rot in hell." These are not the kind of sentiments that we as believers can have in relation to this, because it is the reality is death apart from the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ is a horrible thing. We can't act like it is any different, and it really should hurt us in that way. So I think that we can say justice has been done. We're thankful for that. But let's not join in the voices that are making statements that are unchristlike, and shouldn't be said.
To me, the tragedy is not that bin Laden died outside the knowledge of Christ. It's that he lived outside the knowledge of Christ. It's that he spent all of his years on this earth running from that, disavowing that, and what could his life have been is if he were a Christian. And
if you take an orthodox view of hell, to be happy that anyone would go there should cause us a little bit of pause, and to just kind of reevaluate. I think that's the big issue I see here. All right. Well, I think you guys have said it. I want to go back to the first thing that I read. I don't know how many people know who David Wilkerson was. I hope many still know who he was. I think there's a newer generation. My own kids don't really know who David Wilkerson was. There was a book and also a movie of the same title, The Cross and the Switchblade. David was this guy who went to gangs, and Nicky Cruz was a person who became a convert of Christ.
He had a book, didn't he, called Run Baby Run or something like that?
Yeah. And so David Wilkerson was just this great even keel, great testimony, for the kingdom of God. Tragic automobile accident, head-on automobile accident last week. And so I don't know. I just wanted to take a moment to remember his life. He was a great contributor to the kingdom, and know that he is with the Lord now. Let's hurry on to the Apple story here. This is a bit controversial. So there are allegations being made that Foxconn, which is the company that's cranking out the iPads.
Well, the parts, they're putting it together. There's parts suppliers, many different companies, Samsung. I mean, it probably, if we would be shocked probably if we realized how many different places all the pieces come from. They arrive there, and it's like a puzzle. Then Foxconn's duty is to take those pieces and put them together and get it out the door. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, as a true Apple fanboy that I am, let me take up for Apple at this point. Foxconn has 500,000 workers, 500,000 workers. If you have a notebook computer, many smartphones are being built out of that factory. And Apple, as far as I know, in terms of computers, manufacturers, is the only one that's doing internal audits. And as a matter of fact, when they did their last internal audit, said that there were violations, and they contacted Foxconn to say that the Apple division in Foxconn had to shore up and change some of the things that they were doing. And I'm not saying that this story doesn't reveal truth. It may, in fact, reveal truth. But of all the companies that are working through Foxconn, Apple is one of those that has done their best to keep their finger on the pulse of this, as opposed to other companies. I mean, again, if you have a HP, if you have a Toshiba, if you have a Gateway, I mean, Dell, these computers are being made at Foxconn. Apple's the only one doing internal audits.
Right.
Yeah. So you've got to stand up for them to in that regards. I do wish that that Apple had an American factory that was putting that together. Wouldn't that be great? They are talking about Foxconn, I think, is about ready to build a plant in Brazil. I saw too, where apparently their major focus in that plant is going to be just Apple products.
I would love to know what the difference in wages would be. I mean, I know obviously there's a substantial difference in the wages you would pay a Chinese person rather than an American worker. And so people are always complaining jobs are going overseas, and we have I'm just going to get in a lot of trouble. We have a government who has set in place a lot of policies that, by their very nature, have encouraged companies to take jobs overseas. And I feel like until our government does some things and makes it easier and better for American companies to hire American workers, then. But again, kudos to Apple for, they get a lot of grief for a lot of stuff they do. But when it comes to this, they are trying to get ahead of the issue, and they are trying to make sure they are operating in a way that's above reproach.
Yeah, and I don't dispute anything in this story. I'm just saying what other companies are aware and are trying to do something about it. And we have done stories here in the past where we've talked about that specifically, how they are addressing issues at Foxconn. There may be other computer companies that are. I'm not aware of them, and our listeners might enlighten us here. I don't know. The final story that we covered, and they said it, is really reaction to the article, The Evangelical Adoption Crusade, which we link you to. I don't know how many of you are aware of the abuses that were uncovered in Haiti right at the time of the earthquake. There was a Christian organization, and basically they were not working above board. So they had children that they were trying to get to the Dominican Republic and then get them adopted. And so what's happened is there's, you find that there's a broad brush being painted here. And while the article, Jed Medifine thinks the article is a bit unfair, he thinks that there are things that evangelicals can learn. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but right now there is this kind of politically correct thing where there's a concern that, well, these Christians are going to these countries, they're adopting kids, and these kids are not going to learn about their own home culture. They're not going to know the language, and so there's concern, that these kids are being ripped from this environment. Jed says, okay, what's the option? The option is that they're homeless, many will die, or malnutrition, or they will have these awful childhoods. And so I think that he just gives a good balance here about that, and some good common sense stuff. All right, let's move on to our last story. Now, I asked our district superintendent to be in the chat room today.
Yes.
Have you seen any sign of him in there?
He came in. Let's see if he's
good.
Still here.
All right.
He hasn't been very active.
Okay,
His presence is there. But
that's fine. As long as he's there, I have a question for him. But before I give him the question, we have a video clip for our last story. So let's watch this video clip, and then I'll ask our district superintendent a question.
Locals behind a national religious campaign are warning that the end is near. A Raleigh family is putting up billboards around the country that say the rapture is coming in May. Amber Rupetta has their story.
These billboards popping up in cities across the country have a simple but controversial message. He is coming again, May 21st, 2011.
Christ is going to return and rapture his elect. And that people that aren't saved will be left.
Allison Warden says she knows the exact date Jesus will return from Scripture.
In 1 Thessalonians 5:4 it says, "But ye brethren are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief." That was really the key verse for me when I was looking into it.
Thanks to controversial Christian leader Harold Camping, who says he's mathematically uncovered that May 21st, 2011 is exactly 7,000 years since Noah's flood. His radio show is broadcast in 38 states, but not North Carolina. So Allison Warden says her family had to move here to spread the word.
I mean, you're obligated to warn people. So I guess the first thing that we are doing is attempting to warn people. The second thing that we're hoping that will come of it is that they go to the Scriptures. And what happens at that point, obviously, is not our concern. It's not our business. It's God's business.
Part of that business has moved individuals to privately fund these billboards. And Warden started the website WeCanKnow.com. She even wrapped her car with the warning.
It's what the Bible is saying.
And while the Bible does teach that Jesus will return, most Christians will tell you they believe no man can know the date.
Well, I think like many folks before, they're misguided because the Bible says no one knows the time when Christ will return other than God. And therefore, we're not to be speculating as to when that is going to occur.
Danny Aiken is president of Southeast Baptist Theological Seminary, and he's seen this before.
Those who get involved in setting dates have one tragic common characteristic. They've all been wrong. If they happen to be right, praise God, I'll be glad to join them in the rapture. The Bible says no one knows when. I believe Jesus could come today, and I believe he may not come for 1,000 years. That's on God's timetable, not ours.
In Raleigh, Amber Rapenta, ABC 11 Eyewitness News.
Okay, here's my interest, and here's my question to our district superintendent. For those of you who don't know, district superintendent is someone who's over Wesleyan churches in the region. So Buddy is our district superintendent. He is my personal boss. And so I looked at the calendar. Buddy, May the 21st, we have a DBA meeting. Can we go ahead and just cancel the meeting now? Because if Jesus is coming back, there's no need for us. And that will give Steve Stanley and I out of a meeting and kind of clear up our calendar so that we can, just be transported from some other place.
I think you guys are scared that you guys will be the only ones left there at the meeting.
Okay, can Steve and I be excused from the meeting?
No. What I'm saying is you're going to be at the meeting, rapture happens, and you and Steve are left there looking at each other.
So now if our DS gives us an answer there, Heath, be sure and let me know.
Now, wait a minute. Here's the question. Now, this begs, we don't need to go to the discipline of this. If the district superintendent is taken in the rapture,
Yeah.
what is the line of secession?
It should be me because I was assistant before Fred or Tim. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm really gonna be upset if I'm not tagged as the guy.
So you would kind of be the VP, and then Fred would be like Boehner, and then Tim would be like Strom Thurmond.
Yeah, Tim Custodian. Okay, very humble. Any word from Buddy in the chat room? Is he going to let us out of the meeting or
Buddy
not?
says, don't worry, the Lord will not come back on a predicted day because we have to listen to them throughout all eternity say, I told you so. That's great. That's great.
All right. Hey, listen, we had some good listener comments last week, and so just want to throw those out to you. Rich Avery wrote, really enjoyed listening to the interview with Wayne Schmidt, my former pastor and boss. Excited for what God is doing through him in Wesley Seminary at Indiana Wesleyan University to make practical seminary education affordable and accessible to all. Heath, you have the next one there.
You better go ahead.
I am so glad that I chose IWU. I had a really great experience getting my degree. The seminary looks like it provides even more awesome opportunities for students. IWU is setting the pace for making educational opportunities possible for adults like me who can't relocate but still desire a quality education at one of our fine Wesleyan universities. That is from Sharon Reed.
We really encourage your listener comments. I think both those comments came in via our Facebook account.
Right.
But
hey, we still have, for a comment, for a voicemail comment, we still have a prize. Still open, still unclaimed.
Ooh.
It's like you guys are scared. I think people are scared
So no one
to
has
call.
emailed.
No one's called.
No one's called. Has anybody emailed the
Oh,
answer?
yeah. Yes.
We got a winner?
Well, I haven't verified it. You're going to have to look it up and do all that. It's probably
gosh.
going to have to be after the show.
yeah, we'll have to announce it next week.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll verify and announce next week who won
That's right.
the DVD.
But we still have a copy of Heaven is for Real, a Kindle edition, available for a comment or your thoughts after our discussion with Todd Burpo, or a comment on this episode. I don't know. I'm ready. I'm ready to do it. We'll just, if it's a comment in general. You just call and leave us a comment about this episode or our Todd Burpo episode, and that Kindle edition of Heaven is for Real could be yours.
All right. We have a little bit of a shakeup with our schedule here over the next few weeks. As we have been telling you over the next 2 weeks, next week we have Dr. David Spittle from Southern Wesleyan University. He will be in studio. Looking forward to that. May the 18th, we have Aaron Gadsby, and then a pre-recorded conversation with Dr. Norman Wilson. We're going to be talking about the issue of immigration here in the United States. Here's where we're flipping things around. We've moved Kevin Beers to June the 1st, and May the 25th, we're going to have medical doctor Robert Cranston with us. He has written a curriculum on bioethics, and so this is curriculum that can be used in the church, maybe an adult's Bible study type literature or a Sunday school series. Also joining us on that particular podcast will be Paige Cunningham,
who is lighting up the charts. I tell you what, she is we are getting more search traffic for Paige Cunningham in the episode that we did with her. That's like our number one episode for this year based on Google searches. So
well,
that's exciting.
Paige is a lawyer. She's the director of the Center for Bioethics and is just really a hot commodity right now. I mean, she is in great demand across the evangelical movement. Had the opportunity to be with her last January, and one of the things that she asked some of us to pray about was her schedule. And she said to know what to accept, what to turn down, because her time is so limited. So we are really honored. She asked if we got Dr. Cranston on the show, if she could be part of the show as well. And so we feel privileged to be able to have her again as a guest on the show. And I think this curriculum has real possibilities, and we want to encourage it. We want to see churches adopt it, get it out there, and implement it in your churches to really get up to speed with the bioethical issues of our day. And then, as I said, on June the 1st, Kevin Beers has moved back 1 week, and he'll be talking to us about college ministries. All right. Heath, where can our listeners find you on the internet?
They can find me at chaseyourline.com. It's a bit old of a post there, still trying to relaunch, but from there they can find me on Facebook and using the standard WordPress theme, which makes all your social networking apps present there. I love it.
All right, Tej.
Nice. I am opening up a new portal to be found, MatthewTG.com.
Aha!
Again, if you can spell it, you are worthy. You are worthy to find it. So MatthewTG.com. Find me. I dare you. Where's Waldo of the internet?
All right, you can find me at Facebook.com/AKC64. If you want to do further research on anything we discussed today, you can find all the links to the to the stories we covered at our website, thetechologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, which we strongly encourage, send your emails to thetechologyshow@gmail.com or leave us a comment on our Facebook page, or better yet, call our voicemail line at 3049-TEOLOGY. That's 304-986-5649. Please leave a comment, and we will play your comments.
That is right.
On the
Let's
air.
wait for your voice to be heard.
Yes. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Adios.
Adios, con Dios, my darling.
Oh, gracious. So gracious.
All right.